or Integrity Purple to show kind of a connection with UKIP. And we've just been traveling around, talking to branches, talking to members, and hopefully it's a way of keeping people in, although I keep getting messages to say, people, I've had enough, I'm out of here. But it was a way to cement people's position in the party and let them not walk away because they're not happy with results, but to stay within and to push for change within. So that's Integrity's a pro Gerard. I've known Gerard since 2005. First went to Strasbourg with him, and he's a fantastic guy, and I would do anything for him. He really is a great guy. And we have come together as a group of pro Gerard supporters, wanting to continue what his vision was for the party. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I've heard today actually that apparently whole branch might actually be closing and joining For Britain. So the fact that they're joining For Britain is probably quite a clear sign that it's because of Batten and that kind of thing.
Well, I know I was up in Scarborough and talking to quite a few people up in Yorkshire, and they were really talking about them struggling with people wanting to walk away and join For Britain. And again, we said, no, Integrity, stay within UKIP and fight. For Britain, you'll not really get anywhere. It's not going to achieve much. And as much as I like Anne-Marie, I think she's a great campaigner, but not necessarily a great leader of a political party. So it's, yeah, we want to, those who are Kippers want to stay and keep within the party and fight for what's right in the party and not walk away. But I do hear it's happening today. I had a message from someone else who have just resigned from their committee position and said they'll probably join For Britain. So it's a shame. It's something we have to keep getting the message out and fighting to persuade people to remain in the party.
Could I just chip in there?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dan Ashton, by the way. He didn't introduce me. Forgot his manners, bless him. But too busy on the high of being UKIP new YI chairman, but we'll forgive him. Yeah, just on the Anne-Marie Waters front. I'm relatively new, by the way. I don't really have any great sway or experience, but I'm quite enthusiastic. And on the Anne-Marie Waters and the For Britain, in case people don't know, For Britain split from UKIP when during a leadership contest that Anne-Marie didn't win, so she set up her own thing. But to me, that was an indication that UKIP probably wasn't listening enough to the issues that she represented, which was the issues in northern towns, particularly about certain communities, Islamic communities, and the effects that they're having on the local population there. And not only that, but maybe Islam as a wider issue, which a lot of people feel needs to be dealt with in a more thorough manner, not necessarily more aggressive one, but definitely one that takes it more seriously. And I would say that that's probably the first significant sign of a UKIP schism, because if a leader had been elected that was dealing with those issues more seriously, then arguably maybe the people that felt more strongly patriotic and really wanted UKIP to take a firmer line wouldn't have felt the attraction to For Britain in the first place. So really, I feel that split shouldn't have really happened in the first place, because these are already small parties. They don't need to splinter further. So that's like a first sign that for me that maybe something was going wrong in UKIP. It was going a bit laissez-faire, a bit soft, really.
Do you want to comment on that, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of got to know Anne-Marie over the years, and she's a fantastic campaigner. I'll give her that. And I also got to know John Rhys Evans, who went and started the DVP, the Gay Donkey Party, as it's nicely called. And again, a good campaigner, but why they all thought they should jump off simply because they didn't get their way. And in UKIP, you stay and fight. You maybe don't get the leader you like, and that's why I'm so shocked at the NEC's response to not getting their person in, that they just threw their toys out of the pram and go ballistic, instead of saying, no, we didn't get the person, but let's work with who we have, because they have got the majority of votes, and let's work with them. But time and time again, we've seen in Anne-Marie and in John Rhys Evans, people who just walked away. Mike Hookham walked away, and now the NEC just want to go ballistic and go to war against the majority of the party. And I just say, calm down, work with the party, stay within, and let's navigate through these choppy waters and get back to what we should be doing, which is winning elections.
So to recap on all the things which have happened since Integrity started, Jared Batten originally ran for the leadership, and he was banned from standing. they gave various reasons for that, which none of them seem genuinely valid, in my opinion. Since then, they've banned Liz Phillips, who Richard Brain suspended Liz Phillips, who Richard Brain tried to appoint as chairman. They've suspended you and Alan Craig because of your involvement in integrity. They almost suspended me, but they didn't. And what else? Oh yeah, that's right. Richard Brain wanted to appoint Gerard as deputy, and they denied that because they said he's not in good standing. Even though they actually invited him to the conference to speak. So if he's not in good standing, why would you invite him to the conference?
Wasn't that just after the tickets weren't selling very well, I think?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's nothing to do with the fact that, they have loyalty to him, because they clearly don't.
But the bonkers thing about Gerard was that he obviously founder member of the party, being MEP for 15, 16 years, and was actually number 1 on the London list. So he was good enough to be number 1 on the London list. And the NEC asked him to extend his leadership because it would mean we'd have a leadership election during the locals and European. So they asked him to extend that. So he was in good enough standing for them to extend his leadership time, and good enough standing to be number 1 in London. But suddenly then, after all that passed, he wasn't good standing. So it's a load of utter crap from the NEC, and just an assault on Gerard and what he's done for the party.
Yeah, and I heard the YouTube live stream from the conference of the NEC answering questions, and the answers were pitiful, in my opinion. All they were basically saying is, we didn't like him, we didn't like the people around him, so we stopped them. Fantastic. So
look at his association with Tommy Robinson and things he said about Islam, and then they have Katie Hopkins on, who was walking with Tommy on his way to court and prison, and who's done loads of interviews with him and has said plenty of edgy, un-PC things on similar subjects, possibly more so. So that's another mystifying. Why was she sort of put on such a pedestal? Not that there's anything wrong with that. She's great, of course, but just a total double standards, total contradiction. So yeah, the rage of the members in that hall was palpable. And we thought they'd all be mostly people who were more sympathetic to the NEC, because they were the ones who actually bothered to pay money to go to the conference, and so many stayed away. So the disconnect between the NEC, the sort of governing body of UKIP, and the population is, as many have pointed out, it's analogous to the way a lot of people feel about the population, the Brexiteers feel about the way that Parliament's treating them at the minute.
So what are Integrity's main core principles, would you say?
Let me, because I put up in an email, let me kind of read them out. It'll take a minute. Let me read them out and see what
you should know them off by heart.
I know. I should. Haven't learned them off by heart.
To do my best, to do my duty to God and to the Queen, so keep the Cub Scout law and do a good 10 every day. Sorry.
Well, Integrity's aims are: 1, broaden our remit beyond Brexit; 2, speak hard-hitting truth to entrench power without trimming, compromising, or bowing to political correctness; 3, fight for freedom of speech, thought, and belief; 4, promote patriotism, nationhood, and control borders, and challenge the Anglophobic globalism of the political class; 5, re-establish the state's relationship with citizens based on protection and opportunity, not interference and control; 6, confront the dirty smear merchants of the mainstream media; 7, hold state-permitted child abuse, including the rape of underage girls by Muslim grooming gangs and the promotion of LGBT ideology, especially gender confusion amongst primary school children; 8, insist that Islam must be as open to criticism as any other religion or political ideology and has no special privilege or protection; 9, support the traditional family as the fundamental building block of a healthy society and the best place to bring up children; 10, demand the humane slaughter of all animals, all food animals; 11, prioritize the introduction of a PR voting system for the House of Commons; 12, aim for a vote of the members to allow Tommy Robinson to join UKIP; and 13, expand UKIP's social and alternative media reach alongside heavy hitters such as Carl Benjamin, Mark Meacham, Katie Hopkins, and others. So I've challenged, I sat beside a member of the NEC 6 weeks ago when I brought this out, and I said, what do you disagree with? What exactly do you not like? And she said, I'm not talking to you. I'm turned and looked the other way and didn't even want to talk to me about it. But politics is about listening to a different opinion, discussing it, debating it, and either changing your viewpoint because the other person's right, or persuading the other person on the legitimacy of your viewpoint. But when the NEC just do not want to listen, and I've challenged them, I said, which one of these do you not agree with? Because to me, they're all Kipper-friendly policies. Or maybe the NEC are not Kippers. That's the only explanation I can have.
Brexit Party infiltration.
Yeah. Say no more. Yeah. I mean, what's been happening?
I didn't do that as a statement, by the way. I was just putting that out there.
Don't you have to be Diane Jim 15 days?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any of those as non-Kipper policies, and they're all quite generally probably socially conservative policies, but also addressing some of the issues that society have been crying out for, no one else is addressing, and why shouldn't we? We believe them, so we don't do things in UKIP because we ask a group to come up with policies for us, or because we put out an opinion poll and whatever the public say we do. We didn't do that on Brexit. We pushed on it and others led. We didn't do that on immigration. We pushed on it, the public led. And I think on a lot of these that the public are desperate for a party to appear that will highlight some of these issues and they can fall behind and follow.
Yeah. I think there's always a danger in politics. The type of people who are attracted to politics tend to be the more middle of the road type people who want to be liked and appease certain people. But I think the true identity of most British people is they actually really want something done about immigration, and they don't like what's happening with the Islamification of a lot of places and what's happening to free speech, you know, hate crime laws and all this kind of thing. And so it's actually for the people who do have similar views to shout louder for these people. Oh, I don't know what's happening with Dan, but anyway.
Well, I will actually interrupt that back. Just to point out, yeah, I do actually agree. I think except for two of your policies, the rest of them are actually more into UKIP policy right now, which is really good, I think. Wanting to kind of get the members, what's the word, in line with the policies, remind them of what they are, and help sort of push us towards sort of unifying under those. I think obviously one of the well-known articles, policies, goals, whatever you want to call them, is one of the contentious issues. I think one that's not actually a policy, but not official UKIP policy anyway, but should be, is the one about the inviting the, well, not the heavy hitters, but expanding the UKIP social and alternative media reach. We did try and do that briefly, obviously under Batten, and we did try and we did have Chris Hicks, who was running a bunch of interviews, and I think that was actually very effective. It's made UKIP the most subscribed political party in the UK on YouTube, which is quite a goal. But obviously, we all know what the contentious issue there is. I think that I'm more interested personally in what Brain's opinions are on policies and the NEC's, because obviously it's Brain's position to decide the direction of the party as the elected leader. What do you think?
Okay, Kennedy, can I just ask? I know you have issue with the Tommy Robinson aim. What's the other one you have issue with? Because you said two there.
Yes, that's what I want to mention. The one about I don't have an issue with it. It's just not official policy. The expanding UKIP social and alternative media reach.
Oh, okay, I see.
I don't think we're planning on pressing anyone to do that. We just would like to see that done. I was just asking whether or not you think the, because you were saying how the NEC, you've asked them which one it is they disagree with. I'm not sure what answers they gave, but I'd be more interested to hear what Brain's opinion on the integrity policies was.
I mean, Richard agrees with all of them. he does not agree with the one on Tommy. And I've gone back to him and I've said, well, I'm only repeating what the NEC have said. The NEC said in December that the members would have a vote after the 31st of March. So I'm just calling them out. Now, if they've changed their mind, then they should email members and say they've changed their mind. They have every right to go back on what they said if they want to. And integrity is not there to say, we are not there for Tommy Robinson to be leader of UKIP and Prime Minister of the country. That's what obviously they will push for. I don't dream about Tommy Robinson. I've got a lot of other things, and all those other issues I think are majorly important for society. But with Tommy, it's up to the members. We're Democratic Party members to decide. And the NEC had said the members would have a vote. Richard is of the opinion that that would be a destructive vote, and therefore it's better not to have it. And that's, I will agree.
Say that about the EU referendum.
Yeah.
Nope. The parallels keep cropping up, don't they?
Maybe Tommy doesn't want to join UKIP. I know when I went to see him in Belmarsh, he was really interested in UKIP. We sat down and he said, what's happening with UKIP? And I had an hour and a half with him. We went over a lot of these issues, but he's interested, but he may not want to join. So maybe myself or Jared or someone can ask him, does he actually want to join? At the moment, he'd probably look at UKIP and think, nah, I don't know if there's any point in joining that. Remember, he got 1.9% up in the Northwest, which was exactly what UKIP got. So we got exactly the vote share if it was taken, extrapolated over the country as UKIP got. But he's one issue, and I think the issues he highlights are much more important than him as one person. And I want us to, I mean, Sarah Campion, Rotherham Labour MP, said 1 million girls have been victims of the Muslim grooming gangs. No compensation, no help for those girls. I think that's something we need to push on. Alan Craig has been very good on pushing on that, about the failure of Labour councils to actually address this issue and how they've turned a blind eye. So I think the issues are much bigger than the individual. He's just the messenger. The message actually is one that should strike fear into most people's hearts that this happens in the UK and we want to address it and do something about it. I think Richard's up for that. He just doesn't think that Tommy is necessarily the vehicle or the person to portray that message.
I think I probably agree there fully because, yeah, I mean, I'm a supporter of Tommy. I was at the Brexit Betrayal March last year, partially because of Tommy, partially because of UKIP. I guess what I'm wondering really is why Integrity has chosen to push that now. I believe they've been asked by Brain to kind of drop it, and I would personally say maybe drop it temporarily, bring it up later. So I would ask then, that given the current the situation with the NEC, especially about the party chairman and deputy leader, would it not be better to drop the article temporarily, side with Richard, and then to raise up the divisive policies at a later date?
It's a debate that Alan Craig and I probably have most days, and we're looking at the pros and cons. Now, if you look at that whole, you've got a whole page and you've got two words, Tommy Robinson, in the whole page. So it's the second from last point. So it's not a major issue. It's there. And do you drop it because someone says this is too contentious, we should drop it? Or do you say, no, I stick with it as a matter of principle? And that's kind of we've been discussing back and forward, that when someone says, I don't like that, do you say, okay, then we'll just get rid of it? And then sooner or later, you would have to probably put a line through most of those sometime because someone would object to it. Or do you stick with your principles? And it's a big discussion, yeah, because it cannot be all around one person. UKIP is much bigger than one person.
There's a kind of symmetry to all this, which it just seems kind of logical. All the greatest free speech activists in Britain have gravitated to UKIP, which I think UKIP ought to sort of be quite, surprisingly grateful for. They haven't gone to other parties, and Tommy Robinson is as much a part of that as the rest of them. And it just seems bizarre to sort of cut someone out of the picture, not only because he has a close relationship to Katie Hopkins and all the interviews and all the media, obviously to Jared Batten, to say, oh, we're going to just sort of cut him out of the picture because he's a bit too tricky. It doesn't really make any logical sense to do that, because he's part of the whole story of free speech activism in the UK. He's part of a family of incredible people that have got massive international reach. It's almost arbitrary not to, just to suit the conveniences of a group of people in UKIP that are completely, completely out of favor with the members. The idea that we should suddenly be kowtowing to them is as if it would make any difference anyway, because Peter and Alan were suspended because they'd created some kind of a subgroup that they saw as a threat when it was in fact a reform group. So there just doesn't seem to be much argument to do that. I can't even necessarily see that it would make a huge amount of difference. I doubt Peter and Alan would be not be suspended. So it seems like kowtowing to them when they're not remotely offering anything to our side of the argument, and it's like, well, kind of why really? Why would we bother?
My concern is the NEC want blood, and you throw them a bone, but they'll still come after you. So I'm concerned the NEC cannot be placated until they actually get rid of Richard and put one of their people in place. And I don't think they're going to stop until that happens. And yeah, so that's my big worry, that you would say to them, okay, we'll compromise, and they'd say, great, now screw you, because they don't actually care.
Well, everything they've done up to this point has just been getting progressively worse and worse. More bans, more suspensions. They just they can't have it any way but their own way, it seems.
And the list they've supposedly put out, so a list of 120 people, is funny that the NEC have been sending each other a list that supposedly came from UKIP at wikileaks.org. I think you can just set up a WikiLeaks email. So someone's just set up an email, but it looks as though, wow, this is the WikiLeaks, this is big, but actually it's not. And funny enough, Julian Assange was next door to Tommy, but that's another issue. So there are 120 names that were, these people have been outed as integrity supporters or involved in integrity. And we looked at the first 5: Richard Bryn, Jared Batten, Liz Phillips, Peter Mcilvenna, Alan Craig. And out of those 5, 3 of them have never done anything with integrity. Gerard, Richard, or Liz have never done a thing. They've never raised money, never been involved in any discussion. So
am I on the list? Am I?
I don't know, because it's a long list. So I don't go people. So I had a couple of phone calls this morning, people saying, I'm just checked, have I subscribed? And I said, well, I don't know. You should know. If you've subscribed, you've subscribed. If you haven't, you haven't. We're not here to put names on a list so we can out people or attack people. I mean, it's purely people want to be kept informed, just like people sign up to the Brexit Party to be kept informed. There are probably some Gerard haters who've signed up to integrity just because they're spies in the camp and want to watch. And the good thing about integrity is what we say public, we say private. There's no hidden agenda. This is what we're about. Anyone can see that. And the private conversations we have are the same as the public conversations. So there isn't any dark secret that we're scared to get out. So if anyone on the NEC sat and listened to a phone call with Alan and I, then they would just hear the same stuff. That's what we're about.
What would you say to the people that say you want to basically make Tommy Robinson leader through the back door and make it the Tommy Robinson party?
I don't think Tommy would necessarily be a good leader politically. I think he's actually his best focus and traction is doing the media stuff he's doing, and he's reinvented himself and had to do something. I mean, if you get thrown in prison for everything, you have to do something. So he's come out and done the journalistic side, and actually does quite good. And I believe Robin Aiken, who has criticised the BBC, written books about the BBC, he was at a conference and he praised Tommy and Panodrama. So actually, Tommy's doing a great job in that, and maybe that Tommy does that and talks about UKIP, and UKIP talk about the good stuff he's doing, but we're separate, or maybe we come together. But just because someone is a good campaigner doesn't mean they should be leader of a political party. So I have never thought Tommy should necessarily be leader of UKIP. Whether he should be a member, I think, is up to the members to decide, because we're a democratic party and the members decide these things. But this is not trying to force Tommy into UKIP. No, the other issues are actually as important as any of them. So
to me, it's the energy behind what Peter and Alan are doing, and the sort of conviction and the passion of the kind of people on that side of the argument. I think a lot of those things probably are the articles that you have are probably shared by a lot of the others in UKIP. They're just the feeling and of the spirit of a lot of the rest of UKIP. They just seem to be sitting on their hands and going around in circles, and they just don't seem to be able to move forward. So there's nothing necessarily that radical. It's just the people who are on that side of the argument just seem to want to do stuff, and the other lot just kind of don't. And I think they see that as a threat. Maybe they're just getting a bit, stuck in their ways or something. And so it's like they're frustrating any kind of upward momentum, any kind of movement forward, and just suspending people who do seem to have that sort of drive, and it just seems to be a sort of process of stagnation, and it can't really stay like that, because that you know, the people with that kind of conviction and energy aren't just going to sit around, and so something's going to have to give. And I guess we're all waiting for this all important NEC elections, and then I suppose that's the sort of crunch date, isn't it? Really, just so people know if once the elections happen and a lot of people get voted in that actually move the leadership forward, and then it looks like the party might hold together. But if that doesn't happen, then it's very hard to see how the two sides of UKIP are going to really be able to hold together. And even people on the other side of the argument, like Neil Hamilton, he gave a pretty accurate assessment of the two irreconcilable sides, and we all might not want to say it, but we all know that's true. And there's not really a middle ground. There's pretty much two paths. So
I think I can explain actually why these people are being so steadfast in their opposition to people on our side of the argument. And I think it's because they were in the era of UKIP where you had Nigel Farage front and centre. We got almost 4 million votes at the general election. We won the EU elections. They think, look what we did then. We were winners back then. We're not winners now. So what we need to do is go back to the past, and somehow we can go back to just talking about the same things and get the same success, and it's going to work beautifully. But the fact is that Nigel Farage, like it or not, owns the Brexit issue. We're never going to ride on those sorts of levels of votes, not for a while at least, because Nigel Farage owns that issue. And instead of trying to fight Farage and say, oh, actually, we're Nigel Farage, and just try and say the things he says, but in a different way, we should be thinking more about the future of the party rather than trying to rehash old stories, which aren't going to work for us anymore. Thoughts?
Yeah.
I mean, because I sat outside Richard's first NEC meeting. I sat outside with Liz Phillips for 5.25 hours, and Liz was going to go in because she was going to get picked as chairman. So she was there, and I sat beside her because Richard had said to Liz, well, maybe Peter should come along. You might have to talk about this integrity thing. So it wasn't a direct invite from Richard, but I thought, I'm London based. I can be there in 40 minutes. So I sat with Liz for 5.25 hours, and I didn't get invited in. Liz didn't get invited in. But I mean, Kirsten went past, and she knew I was there, and it would have been, the integrity issue would have been raised, and I would have happily gone up and answered any questions. I'm not afraid of anyone in the NEC. I'll go up and I'll go toe to toe with anyone, and I'll answer their questions. But they weren't interested, and that shows where we are in the NEC. This is what they want, and they don't give a damn about anything else or anyone else. And to me, the NEC should be there to listen to opinion within the party. They don't listen to 53%. We go on about 52%. Of people voted Brexit, therefore we should get Brexit. But then 53% voted for Richard, but no, we don't like Richard, we don't want him. So it's our own Remainer group in the NEC. But I'm quite shocked. They just have no interest in listening to a different opinion. They've made up their minds. They're the smart ones. We're the thick ones. It's Remainers who lose all over again. Yeah.
So the way we solve this is very clearly going to be the NEC elections. I've heard rumours that they might possibly try and ban certain members of integrity and people like that from standing. What are the chances of that? Do you think we'll be okay? I don't mean to blackpill too many people here.
From a glance at how the party's set up and the powers of the chairman in NEC, which are absolute, my understanding is they could ban whoever they want to. Kirsten used emergency powers for you, Damien, and for me. So, case of exceptional gravity. I don't know whether Kirsten is causing exceptional gravity or exceptional gravity is coming from somewhere else, but this exceptional gravity meant that we could do anything she wanted to do. So, and she could purge the party of whoever. So, the NEC, she could actually decide tomorrow, I don't like anyone with a surname beginning with A. Everyone with A, be banned. Off with you.
Hey, calm down.
But it could be as bonkers as that. So She could just decide she doesn't like people. She doesn't really have to give a proper reason, or she can make up a reason, and then that person is barred from standing because you have to have your names in for what, Thursday or Friday. So she could just actually just say, I ban everyone who likes Gerard, and that's it. So the NEC make the rules. So actually, it's if they go completely mad, then they will just block anyone they don't like, and they will just whittle it down to 9 people who they want, and those 9 people automatically get in. If they actually care about the party, they'll have an open, and everyone who puts themselves forward who meets the criteria can stand, and the members decide. But the members voted Richard, and they didn't like that. So I've got an inkling that they don't like this whole democratic vote of the members, and they want to sabotage as much as they can. Thought?
Yeah. Actually, I do have something to add in there. So originally, a while back, I was going to ask why you guys didn't create a special interest group. I mean, I kind of am going to ask that now, but I will point out that I saw in an email of yours, you said, actually, I don't know if it was you or Alan, said, we are not a group within UKIP, and we have not been asked to be a group within UKIP. Which is why I rightly pointed out when Integrity and you and Alan were first suspended, that I believed it was a massive stretch. Kirsten has used Section 11 of the Constitution to suspend Damien for similar reason, urgent reasons, really, which is a bit much, a bit of a exaggeration. And so basically, what I wanted to ask basically is if Integrity believes itself not within UKIP, and given that they are supporting Jared Batten, then given Jared Batten's involvement with UKIP and Integrity's goals, why would it be established strictly outside of UKIP?
So we didn't think of whether we're inside or beside or whatever. We just thought we need something to keep people within the party. And we wanted everyone who signs up to be a member of the party. So it is about keeping people in the party. That was the first thing. Second thing, there are a couple of special interest groups. So I know there's Support for the Family. There are probably 4 or 5 other ones. And those are groups that were set up, and then later on they asked to be an official recognized group. So Support for the Family in UKIP. So you're an official recognized group in UKIP, a special interest group. So there are probably about half a dozen of those. But we were suspended under the special interest group part of the Constitution or the rules. But we're not a special interest group. So we were accused of setting up a special interest group without permission from the party. But we haven't set up a special interest group. We've just had people coming together who are pro-Gerard. But if they banned us because we set up a special interest group before a special interest group, then every group is a pre-special interest group. You can't have a special interest group without having a group. So any of those groups have come together and done stuff for a year and a half, supported UKIP, and then said we want to now go for special interest. But they weren't all banned because they're part of a group. So there's a process. But we don't want to be a special interest group. We're just purely a band of Batten supporters coming together and wanting to continue what he did, and people can discuss that and debate that, and we're happy to go anywhere and discuss that. So it's not a special interest group, which is the reason why we were banned, which is nonsense.
Yeah, no, I do agree that the you guys weren't a special interest group, and therefore the Constitution didn't apply to you there. I do agree with that. I guess what I'm asking is why you guys didn't go for the special interest group, because I mean, obviously, groups seeking to change policy in the party typically would become a special interest group. That's kind of what it's for. Obviously, if you guys had, it would have been a trap because then it would have applied to you, that constitutional rule. But I guess what I'm wondering is why you didn't go for it in the first place.
Well, no group sets themselves up as a group and then day 2 say they want to be a special interest group. They set themselves up as a group and they grow, and then later on they think, actually, we'd like to be an official part of UKIP, and then they apply for that process to happen, and then the NEC consider their request, and then if they're allowed in, they're allowed in. But so we're at that any pre-SIG stage where we're just people coming together backing Gerard and supporting his ideas. Whether I don't intend to ever go for a special interest group, but who knows what happens? We may have the majority of people who subscribe, they may all say, we want to be a special interest group and then apply for that. But at the moment, that's not on our radar. We're not that formal. It's just people coming together and wanting to continue that.
When do you and Alan get your hearings, by the way?
I was going to ask that, actually.
So I'll have to ask you for tips, Damien. But anyway, that'll be off camera. So after we got the email to say we're suspended, without Kirsten talking to us or saying anything, just out of the blue email, I opened up my email, suspension from party, subject. Seriously? What the hell have I done? So I read it. And it said, hereby you're suspended from the party. You have 2 weeks in which to appeal. And you're suspended for no less than a year. It's not like a 3-month suspension for a minimum of a year. Minimum. So it could be a lifetime ban we get. We had to email the General Secretary, who's Jeff Armstrong. So we had both emailed Jeff on the day before 14 days ran out and said, we would like to appeal our suspension. And then the ball's with him. And then it goes over to Adam. And then Adam emailed us about 2 weeks after that and said, I will organize a disciplinary panel for you to go and sit in front. And that's your firing squad, basically. We didn't say that. But when Liz Phillips did it, she went and there was Ben Walker. Who were the other two? Pat Bryant.
Pat Bryant, yeah. Marietta King, possibly. Marietta
King.
Yeah.
And whenever she walked in, she just started laughing. Because she said, this is a kangaroo court. What hope is there? And exactly, they ruled that she was a naughty person and had broken lots of rules. But whenever you've got people who are just 100% against you, then what's the point in sitting in front of them? Because they've already decided. To me, I'll always listen to someone else's viewpoint, and I want to understand why they think something. That's why you go and talk to Remainers in front of Parliament, because I work there and I want to go out and chat to them. But these people on the NEC, they just do not want to hear a different opinion. So I reckon Alan and I will have the same 3 group who obviously hate integrity. I mean, they've already voted 8-2 to ban people in integrity, being a prescribed organisation. So how would I get a fair hearing sitting in front of people who have already voted to ban anyone who does anything with integrity? So it's a foregone conclusion. So I guess that means Alan and I are suspended for no less than a year and no more than a lifetime.
Do you have a date set for it, though? No.
We're so slow. No. So it's been 2 weeks since Adam emailed me and I haven't heard anything yet.
I think you need to press him on it, because I actually had a similar thing where I wasn't getting any response really, and I pushed them on it hard. And they eventually gave in my hearing, and miraculously I managed to cling to the party, and now I'm YI chairman. So what are you going to do about it? So
you're an example of why they should not let anyone else pass the test. Who was the one you were hearing, by the way, if you can make that public or that private?
Well, you'd know more than me about what I'm allowed to make public and private.
Okay, don't. You wouldn't start in your job. You don't want to shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah, good point.
You have to be good.
I'm in enough trouble as it is.
We'll discuss that after the stream. Obviously, I can fill you both in if you need to.
Yeah, all the juicy bits that the audience is not allowed to know about.
Can I just say one thing before we move on from integrity, and we can discuss other things? Like, tell us about your YI goals and all that stuff, anything else. But just on integrity, whenever people are told the lists have been released and all the names have gone out, the last thing I'm going to do is release a list of private names to Kirsten or someone else who hits my guts. I'm not going to do that. So that list doesn't go anywhere. And we don't have any members. It's just people who subscribe and want to be kept informed. So if people do want to subscribe, they can go to integritypurple.com and they can even go to GoFundMe and look for Integrity Purple and it will come up. So that's all there. But it's not an official UKIP group. I'm suspended. Alan's suspended. We're all suspended at this rate. So, but yeah, if you believe and agree with those ideals, then sign up. It's free to subscribe and you can keep an eye on it. Even if you hate integrity, why not keep an eye on it? We might persuade you it's a good thing. Right, that's all. Advert over.
Okay. I think I can say, actually, in my hearing, when I was going into it, I thought, I'll be fairly congenial and just try and get through the process and hopefully not get suspended. But then just as it was approaching, I thought to myself, actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to tell them exactly what I think. I'm going to tell them everything I think they're doing wrong. And for some, reason, I think a few of them were saying, well, we're not sure about this and that, Damien, but, you're clearly a very clever young man and all this kind of thing. And I think somehow with my arguing, I managed to charm them, which wasn't originally my intention.
Yeah.
But because of your stature, Peter, and also Alan, they might not be so merciful.
I have no stature. I am no one in the party. I have zero position. I'm banned, so I have no stature at all.
Well,
I'm just a member, or was a member.
You used to be the head of campaigns, though. Am I right?
I was head of campaigns for 6 months.
Yeah.
Do you know the crazy thing that, the amount of lies which came from that platform over the conference. So one example of an outright lie is Kirsten Harrier said that because of the association with Tommy, we struggled to get candidates for the local election. Okay, what the truth is to her lie is that we had 540 candidates last year. We had 1,400 this year.
Yeah.
I was in the office every single day in Ilford. We were struggling to cope with making sure we could connect candidates to DNOs, and DNOs did a fantastic job. We had 120 odd DNOs, fantastic job getting forms signed and getting applications in. Without them, we couldn't have done it. But so we were overwhelmed with people. So we had 3 times the amount. And in 2018, we had 1.8% we got in the locals. In 2019, we got 4.5%. So again, the line that because of Tommy, now I can't say because of Tommy, we got 3 times the candidates, but she can't say because of Tommy, we did this. But it just shows that someone cannot give credit where credit's due. Cannot say, actually, well done, party, for getting nearly 3 times the candidates. All she could say was to put down Gerard and attack him instead of saying, well done, Gerard. So it's, a lesson to be learned, to try and find the good, but just to stand on stage and just lie outright is quite shocking. So that's the thing.
Well, she was very critical in an email not too long ago about Richard Brain, which actually I found quite surprising.
Mm-hmm.
But go on, Kenley.
I was just going to say, before you guys do move on, if you want to, I did have a few more questions, but instead of asking those, we are moving on. I was going to point out, there was a point I wanted to make earlier on when you were talking about how there were just the 2 words in your goals, and then I think Dan Ashton said something about that also being an important point, the goal in integrity. I will point out that before Richard came along, before the NEC said anything, before anyone started getting involved, I was reading what integrity wanted to do on my own. And even as a Tommy supporter, when I reached that goal, I thought that's probably the one I wouldn't want to support. The rest of them, I thought I'm on board with that. But that was just the one I was kind of a bit guarded against. So I think, just aside from what Brain and NEC are saying, that was just one point where I thought, maybe not. Whereas if that wasn't there, I probably would have welcomed integrity quite happily. And I imagine quite a few people I've spoken to would as well.
My thinking process was partly that I was supporting, when Richard got elected and was doing so well on the media and everything, it was like, okay, give the guy a chance. And everything's moving so fast. My thinking's just changed a bit since then. It just feels like because of the stagnation in the party that something under the surface like integrity is kind of needed to sort of press this kind of issues forward, because Richard's sort of trying to keep 2 sides of the party together, but it's not that hard to see that it's just sort of papering over the problems, and that by just sort of saying, oh well, Richard's got this stance on me and all the rest of it, and let's just if he thinks that if he sort of pacifies one side by going soft on one issue and vice versa, that's somehow going to, it's clearly not really a way forward. It's not really
one side has to win ultimately, I think. Otherwise, everyone's going to lose. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and that's why I sort of got involved in integrity. But the main reason was partly talking to people up north where their UKIP parties have been their groups have been collapsed. I'm not going to name any names, but it does seem like there are some people within UKIP that seem to want to destroy the party from within, or at least just destroy parts of the party from within that they don't agree with the Jared Batten side, and also that there's groups going over to For Britain that they're feeling that UKIP's gone soft and ineffective, and that's why integrity in a way is kind of holding the fort. And I've said to some of these people I've had long conversations with, just hang on until we can get some reform here, and because they are going over to other parties, they are getting fed up with it. The people are actually leaving in significant numbers, and that's that sense of urgency. I can't just sit around and say, oh, just wait for Richard Brain and everything to sort it all self out and everything to be. I kind of moved on from that. It's like, no, I joined this party for a reason, because it's it stands for something decent, and if it doesn't, I'm not really interested in continuing with it that much anyway, if it just goes round and round in circles in this mess. So I'm prepared to sort of risk losing my membership to because I don't really know whether it's anything is going to be worth holding on to if I don't try and take a chance and make a bit of a stance for it. But there is an urgency, I think, and it is that we're losing members fast. So if people think integrity's somehow unpatriotic to UKIP, I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's, if anything, it's trying to stop the decline, and if people don't like that and because it disrupts them temporarily, well, that's too bad, because things are that bad anyway.
Yeah, tough shit.
But one little point on the Tommy line, that initially we'd put down as our point, push for Tommy, push for Tommy to join the party, and those actually, that's not up for us to decide. This is up for the members. We're here to put proposals or ideas. So actually, what the NEC have said, we'll have a vote. So then we went back, okay, aim for a vote of the members, because again, it's about the members. If the members decide they didn't want them, that's fine. I mean, I've been through a lot of decisions in the party I don't agree with, and that's fine, because I've never been a member of any other political party. UKIP's been the only party I've joined and been a member of, so that's fine. I'll accept what the members decide.
Should it be up to a majority to decide whether someone joins? It seems a little bit mean. Surely there should either be it's a case-by-case basis for anyone who's been part of a prescribed group, such as the EDL or whatever. So I have never been clear about this. I don't know if you know any better, Peter, but as far as I know, a former member of a far right-wing party can join under as long as their case is reviewed individually. So I don't think we should be individually voting on people joining. Otherwise, we might just vote for people we don't want to join because we don't like them or something. Surely we'd have to look at the prescribed rule again, or we have to. I don't understand what's the process for who makes the decision whether someone who's been part of a prescribed group can join, because as far as I can tell, it's absolutely crystal clear that Tommy Robinson's not remotely a racist, and his brief fling in the BNP was partly just due to the circumstances of his time, and I think we all understand that. So I don't see why he can't join.
Well, the case by case is up to the NEC and or the chairman to decide. So they can look at individual cases and make a decision. It doesn't have to be up to the members. To me, I think you should scrap the lifetime ban. It's stupid that someone who maybe was in the National Front whenever they were 18 for a few months, realised actually this is not for me, it's wrong, have left, and then 20 years later they can't join UKIP. To me, it's crazy. Now, Richard has said he wants to keep a lifetime ban, but to me, it's crazy. At the moment, a member of the IRA can join, but not a member of ex-member of the BNP. To me, it's ludicrous. So either you put hundreds and hundreds, and if we're going to list prescribed organisations, let's put Labour and the Conservatives up as well. Let's put them all up. I mean, where do you go with this? So either you have to put everyone or no one. But I think by all means you can have a short rule. But even if you don't have any, even if we scrap our ban on any prescribed group, we don't have any prescribed groups, still the NEC and the party can decide whether a member can join or not. So we could scrap the rule and someone applies to join, and the NEC can still say that person, actually, they're not good for our party because they've said something, we don't like them, we can block them. So the NEC still has the right to block individuals. But at the moment, that block is permanent across the board. And I think you should remove that to a 5-year, 3-year ban, if anything.
Give them a 3-month trial. If they start a Nazi youth wing or anything, then obviously, we'd have to look at it again. But failing that, and just to make the point that Farage used to brag that UKIP acted as destroyed the BNP because they had 1 million votes at one point, and then UKIP came along, and so people found a more legitimate party instead of maybe arguably a protest vote for the BNP. So if you're going to act as a way of destroying actual far right parties, we're not actually far right, guys. You just think we are. Then it would be ridiculous to not at least have some process to allow people in, because then you're actually going to drive people further into the far right, which is counterproductive.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Gerard, because I do feel like he is the crunch point on a lot of these issues. First of all, I want to shout out to Gerard in a big way, because when he came in charge, I was so inspired. The introduction of people like Carl Benjamin and Count Dankula and PJW was a good move. It brought a lot of young people into the movement, the liberalists and people like that. But Gerard, to me, is one of those people who comes around every sort of 30 to 50 years or so, and he just has the charisma. He has the ability to pull in people and really draw their attention. And he just, I don't want to sound too much like a fanboy, but he really, we need to understand how valuable he is to UKIP, because I do feel like maybe other parties, they're not quite so reliant on having great leaders, but UKIP, to me, certainly, we need someone who's a strong leader who can really rally the troops, and Jared Batten is that person. It's controversial, but I personally believe we need to have Gerard back ultimately. How do you feel about Gerard in terms of his leadership, and do you think there is a possibility he may come back in the future? After you, Peter.
Me first. Jared's fantastic. I first met him in Strasbourg in 2005, and that was the first time I saw how the EU voted and how crazy it was. So I went over and with a delegation of 3 of us, Islam expert, a church leader, and myself as a researcher. So it was quite an eye-opener, and great to see Gerard and see him in his element. And as I've kind of got to know him over the years, he's not for politics in that he is utterly honest. He's straightforward. He does what he says he will do. You can trust him absolutely. He's sometimes indecisive, but when he calls something out, he will stick by it and do it. So, yeah, I mean, many things he's done, which people say is controversial, and he said, well, because it was the right thing to do. And to have that integrity, that I'm going to do it because the right thing to do in politics, you don't really get a lot. So I think it's brilliant. He goes to something because it's right, and he'll listen to opinions. He'll always listen to viewpoints. So he won't push on regardless. He will always have counsel and listen to what other people say and go with that. But Damon, as you said, bringing on Carl and the others, fantastic. No, it hasn't translated into success in the ballot box, but it's about engagement at that level, and then let's see how it translates further on. But Jared is a great guy. He's funny. You don't normally see that in public, but he's funny. He actually cares about individuals. When he heard I was suspended, he phoned me that morning and says, Peter, I'm really sorry to hear that. And that shows the personal side, that he cares about individuals. But he's bold, and he'll push for what's right, and he won't be deterred by people who say, no, don't do that because that might affect us negatively. His response will be, well, is it right or not? How can we change public opinion so they're on our side instead of just falling back because we may have an issue with it? So I think it's absolutely brilliant. I don't know whether he did really have a debate within him whether he would stand, and Neil Hamilton was in effect mocking him, and I think others have. But because I work with Lord Pearson, and I've talked to him about his time as leader, and obviously working with Gerard and seeing the pressures and the struggles that puts on you, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone to be leader of UKIP. It's one of the worst jobs I could ever think of. But
unpaid as well.
Yeah. But he did it, and he did it with passion and enthusiasm. And of course, it gets you down. Some days he would be down because of the pressures of it. Other days he'd be up. And he did think long and hard about putting his name forward, because it's it's huge. Why put yourself through that crap? Why? And he thought about it, and in the end, I was in the office, and he said, "No, I'll put my application in." And he did talk to Piers about he was two-minded about whether to do it or not. And Piers had great joy in telling people at the conference just to attack Jared. But of course, it's a big thing having the media travel halfway across the world just to hassle and harass your family. That's what it's like, and he realized that's what it's like. So it's not a decision to be taken lightly, but when he came to a decision, that's what he wanted to do, and did it. So maybe he may. I hope with Richard's a great guy, he really is. We agree on those issues, 92% of them. So that's fine. That's good enough for me. We're not married. That's good enough. 92% agreement, and he's a good guy, and I really wanted to be able to push through and to get the NEC to back him. But if the NEC don't back him, it all goes belly up, then I don't know what will happen. Maybe Jared may come back later. Maybe he'll be able to strengthen Richard. I don't know. I don't know what Jared's thoughts are on it, but certainly I can't speak highly enough of him.
Well, we need him as a deputy at the very least, in my opinion. I know that much.
Yeah.
But,
I'm going to be that guy.
Sorry?
I'm going to be that guy. So, Peter, obviously, I know you guys obviously follow Batten very closely. You know, you obviously support him a lot, as I do. But I do believe I did hear that Richard and Jared both met with you personally to ask you to drop the Tommy article.
They both, yeah. So we sat together, and Gerard said he didn't agree with integrity because he doesn't agree with any groups in the party. But then I know in the last two articles he's actually been complimentary and hasn't criticised us. Richard has asked me on numerous times to drop it. My response to Richard would be, if I drop it, does that move anything on? And he couldn't say yes or no. So what's the point in dropping what you believe if it's not going to achieve anything? Now, if I thought, if I drop 2 words in that we would all come round the mulberry bush and everything would be great, then absolutely, we consider that and probably go for it. But I don't think that'll happen. The NEC are out for blood, and you throw them a bone and they'll still come after you and maul you. So I don't know if it actually achieves anything by doing that.
I suppose what I'm asking is that if it was Jared and Richard there, both on the same side speaking to you, did that not like sort of, I don't know, compel you at least a bit more if it's Batten asking there, you know, because he's the guy that we've been following. He's the reason I joined. He's the reason I think Damien's been inspired. So I do tend to help give his words a lot of weight, and slowly but surely Brain's words are getting more weight with me as well. So I was just wondering, did that not sway you in the slightest?
Oh, absolutely. I go and think about it. Absolutely. I'll take what Jared says on board all the time. I may disagree with him and not do it, but I'll sit and ponder it a lot. Absolutely. Massive respect for him. But I went to see Tommy in Belmarsh, and when I sat down, Tommy said, UKIP, what's happening? He's really interested. When Jared went to see him a week later, Jared said that he asked him, did he want to join, and Tommy didn't. So maybe he doesn't. That's fine. But I want to chat to Tommy and find out first what he thinks before dropping that. But yeah, we sat and talked. Remember, we sat and talked. I remember when, and we talked about it around the table. And I went away and thought, actually, if it's not going to achieve anything, then why do it?
Yeah.
I mean, as I said earlier, you might have had my support. There's a few other people I know who have brought up that specific clause as being the reason they are hesitant. So I just think that we will always have the NEC in its current form. The current NEC are going to pretty much stand against Richard or stand against integrity, as they've seemed to position themselves. But the way I'm seeing is at least we might get Jared and Brain on our side, and you might get me on your side if you were to drop that.
But Kentley, so we've said we want the NEC to follow through on what they said. But if they want to come out and say they've changed their mind, I've said they should do that. So I'm only going along with what the NEC have said will happen.
But we've
I'm
already
gonna
proven the
be-
NEC are a bit, well,
Incompetent.
I could give you
I'll
a
let
list
their
of
actions speak for themselves.
yeah, but I'm just calling them out and saying, look, you guys said we would have it, so why not? So it's actually completely in line with NEC policy. That's why I've challenged the NEC to say, why do you disagree with your own policy?
I am compelled to hold them to their word as well. I remember that when we had that discussion, I remember debating people and telling them, look, let's just wait till March.
Yeah.
So look, that's a fair request. Let's just wait and, we'll let this lie for now.
Yeah.
And I was quite happy to wait. Honestly, I kind of forgot. Tommy seemed to lose interest and all that. So I guess I'm just looking at the current situation we're in now, where we've got an NEC who have shown themselves to not really be willing to do what the leader has requested, and not to carry out the mandate, which has come from the vote. So I guess that's why I'm wondering. I mean, obviously, you're saying you're calling them out. They're obviously quite happy to just say, well, we're going to ignore you anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is why we can't sort of pull that aside and just call them out on the many other rubbish things they've done that we can definitely hold them on. The main recent one being the 53% vote for Brain, which I think Brain would quite happily side with you if you're defending one.
Can I just ask a question? From what I can tell, the only reason more people aren't getting behind integrity is because the NEC hold the threat of suspending people. They've done it so many times that people are afraid to speak up for the actual. I mean, integrity represents really what's wrong with the NEC and how to put it right and how to bring UKIP back to a basic core set of values. There's nothing strange about what they're doing. There's nothing particularly subversive. It's all just basic UKIP ideas and a strong UKIP sort of revitalized sort of mini manifesto in effect that probably more or less everybody agrees with, bar one or two, maybe one point which they might debate on. But the reason that there's not more people getting behind it and is because they're all afraid of getting suspended. And really, if the NEC are really using fear to stop people joining up, and if they didn't use that fear tactic, probably that hundreds and maybe thousands more people would be joining in, and then the NEC would be forced. So they're really just holding on to their power through fear of suspension, and that's the reason that people I can't get many people to publicly come out with it, because they say, oh, we better be quiet because we don't want to get suspended. There's the bad list and everything. So it's a kind of perpetuation of a problem which isn't getting solved because there's fear being used to manipulate people so they can keep their little UKIP membership, and that's really bad reason not to reform something. It's.
Do you know where I see the analogy for this? When Trump was in the beginnings of his campaign and he would say things which were controversial and, we need to reduce immigration, build that wall. And I bet he had a million mouths in his ear saying, oh, no, you can't say that. Oh, you've got to tone that down. Oh, you can't do that. Well, guess what? It was a winning formula and it worked. And I kind of feel there's so many people saying, oh, we need to compromise here. We have to please these people. No, we can't do that. We need to double down, if anything. That's the way we're going to put fire into people's bellies and get them active and get UKIP back to being a radical party. That for me is
so much fear. People are afraid. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
stop being afraid and actually stand up for what they believe, and I thought that's what UKIP was about. I mean, I thought that was why I joined. So,
and that's what the vast majority of the members believe. I have no doubt about it. It's just that certain people in the higher upper echelons of the party, they don't want us to really sort of gain that ground. They don't want us to filter through. So it is a fight, and I'm hoping we're going to win it. We do have the NEC elections, which I want to talk a little bit more about. So I've actually got the dates here. So the voting opens on the 21st of October and it closes on the 31st of October. Now, from what I understand, Batten's got a slate of candidates. I thought Integrity originally had a slate of candidates, but are you just going to promote the ones that Batten are promoting? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, we're there as a pro Batten group in the party. So when we initially talked about the candidates, we had talked to people, we were putting together a list, and then Jared put out his Kipper Central article. So we said, okay, we'll stand down and we'll back those candidates, because we looked through a lot of them and they seem decent people. They're good Kippers, have been in the party a long time, so they seem good people. And Jared's article today was quite good. He said, well, the NEC can put up we hate Jared Batten candidates if they want, and they can have the other side. So, but then it all becomes about Jared, and Jared doesn't want it to be the case. He just wants UKIP to thrive and do well. But yeah, we'll just back and promote the 9 that he puts forward.
Is it going to be a fair contest then? Can we tell? Or can the NEC, do they still have the power to manipulate things to their advantage?
We mentioned that earlier. They do have the ability to just straight ban anyone they don't like, unfortunately. However, I think because of integrity and a lot of support behind us, we can put the pressure on them if they even think about doing that. So hopefully that won't happen. So we've got 9 candidates. So presumably there's 7 places up for election, isn't there, Peter?
Well, that's debatable, because others have said there are 9. Some candidates have gone past their 3 years and 6 months, so they're there illegally according to our company law. So it's a whole mess. And I noticed on the website, it used to have on the website people's terms. So that like 2016 to 2018 or whatever, but that's all been removed. So there's very little information on the individuals any longer, including the lack of contact information. So members can't even contact a lot of the NEC members. But others have said there are 9, definitely 9 up, but the NEC make the rules. They could say tomorrow there's 1. What are you going to do about it?
I will interject here. So basically, the NEC elections have been announced to be an electronic election. I will cite something here. I'll literally quote it. It's from the UKIP website. So you know, I can't be said I've done anything wrong. Last sentence here is important. 6.12 of the UKIP Constitution. Elections to the NEC shall be conducted in accordance with the rules laid down by the NEC from time to time. I'm actually going to skip that all, actually, it's a long paragraph. But essentially it says, together with the number of vacancies and the latest date for the receipt of nomination in the issue of the party newsletter, penultimate election. So firstly, they're supposed to send out all the nominations and elections that are up for grabs, in the penultimate newsletter, which they didn't send out. Now, the last sentence is, the election shall be by way of a postal ballot of all the members. So the electronic vote, though being held by a Canadian independent organization, is likely to not be valid anyway, so we're going to have to do a postal ballot. Whether or not the NEC can influence that, I don't know, but I thought it is worth raising here because you guys were talking about how they might influence it.
Yes, this is certainly an issue. The thing is, there is the issue of, do you make a fuss out of it and then risk costing the party a hell of a lot of money by cancelling the election and doing it again? But I do have concerns about it being done electronically against the Constitution, I have to say. What are your thoughts on this, Peter? I'm
actually just worried, because when you do a postal ballot, you rely on the Royal Mail getting it in, and then you can physically be there when they come in and check them. One, I've got concern, but the NEC don't care about the Constitution, so they'll do whatever they want to do. That's one thing. I've seen a response from Adam on this, which doesn't address it at all. He just dismisses it and says they've discussed electronic voting, so it's fine. But it's written there in black and white. You have to do a postal vote. That's the first thing. But secondly, we don't know how much it's costing to do an electronic ballot. Obviously, a company has been paid to do that. Is this their bread and butter? Is this the first one they've done? Who are they? Who's recommended them? So I've got a load of questions that the members have no idea which company is doing this. I mean, is the company owned by one of the NEC members? Who knows? Literally, who knows? So it's just not as transparent as a postal. And at the rate we're losing members and the rate you're suspending members, a postal ballot wouldn't cost much anyway, because there'd be so few members. So I I don't know whether a postal ballot would be really much more than an electronic, because we didn't use anyone for the leadership. We just actually we posted it out. That was the cost. And then it was counted. It wasn't counted by a separate company, which was done previously. So you didn't have that extra cost. So the only cost is posting to members, but there must be a cost in this company being paid to run an electronic ballot. But again, I don't know who they are. I don't think it's been announced who the company is or any information about it.
That's true. I mean, it would, I'm a web developer, so I would say anything electronic is usually cheaper, though in this case it would also be unconstitutional. So I think, this ought to be some sort of decent explanation. I was going to raise another question, actually, because you guys were talking about how you might influence or get involved in the NEC election. There was a question from one of the listeners, one of the viewers, that I thought might be relevant and is obviously on all our minds in the last couple of days. So Cameron here said, have you guys heard about how the NEC has passed a motion to suspend or expel from UKIP all members who have been associated with or who have supported the Integrity Group?
I have heard a lot about this and seen different emails, and I understand that my understanding, what I've read, and it may not be true, but that originally Pat Brand had put forward a motion that didn't run, and now Ben Walker's put forward a motion that has run, and they've agreed to it on a 8-2 vote, I think, that they should prescribe integrity and stick along with the BNP and National Front as a racist organisation. I guess that would be the understanding, because the prescribed list was to ban organisations that were perceived as racist. So that's supposedly gone through. What that now means, no one knows, because it hasn't been announced to the members. It's just all by leaks. So the NEC, how will they decide of involvement? Because there's no membership. So will it be someone who's mentioned them on Facebook or WhatsApp, or will it be someone who's maybe given money, or someone who's sat with me in that Holiday Inn and had a drink with me, who's been in close proximity? I don't know. So they have to decide what it means by involved with integrity, because Alan and I have been suspended, and we're the main evil people who are promoting this and pushing it. We're the public face, with the backing of many members. But yeah, what does it mean involved? And is that then are they then told, if you continue being involved, that you're banned? Or is it, well, you have been involved, so you're banned? So is it done retrospectively? I don't know. But it's purely been as a way of trying to block Gerard candidates for the NEC.
Well, if they were to do something like that on a big scale, it would be a Stalinist purge, essentially. So I don't believe they would get away with that unscathed. I think they would get a lot of scrutiny. I don't actually believe they will do that. They may ban 1 or 2 people, but I don't believe they're going to ban all of Batten's candidates. I would be very surprised. But, who knows at this point? But I do believe if we do get these candidates in, we do have a good chance of turning the party around.
Yeah.
So the first thing we can start doing as soon as we get those people in is to quash those stupid suspensions, in my opinion. Get Liz as chairman. That's the first step, I think. And, well, I believe we should push Brain on the Tommy vote also. So I do believe we have a good chance of turning this around. What do you reckon? Yeah, reasonable.
I mean, I think there's a good chance, yes. And if the NEC play ball and they treat the members with a little bit of respect and let the members to decide, then yes, I think there's a good chance of getting the right people in, and then they can make good decisions. Because I've seen the list of people that Jared's put forward, and they're sound, good, decent people who will bring a lot to the position. You don't want someone who just says, I'm pro Gerard, but I can't do a thing. You want people who are sound because of what they believe ideologically, but sound because of what they bring to the position of an NEC member and can actually do the job competently. And I think a lot of those people will. So,
give us some names.
Huh?
Do you want to give us some names of the candidates, or are they not allowed to be announced yet?
I think Gerard's emailed the names. He's put it out. But
he said he would in a few days. I think it was next week. Not
Yeah,
sure.
that's not up to me to name the candidates. And if they are mentioned by Peter Mcilvenna, then that could be the kiss of death for them. So no.
Okay. Well, tell me after the stream, okay? How about that?
But to me, that's why a lot of people are hanging on. And Jared's article today in Kipper Central, that's why a lot of people are holding on to their memberships, because they want this NEC election to fix this logjam that we currently have, so we can actually get on with doing things as a party. We can get spokesmen appointed, we can get positions in the party, we can get on with a campaign, we can get on with our social media or communications. All of that, all this needs to be done. And at the moment, it's logjam with the NEC. So if this breaks that, then we can actually get on to what we should be doing as a party and engaging in with the electorate.
Can I ask the big question then? What happens if there's not a sufficient reform? What's the cutoff point? And given that a lot of entire groups and a lot of people, not just activists and members like that are maybe sort of more active, a lot of people will leave if the outcome of the NEC elections just looks like more of the same, or a compromise which just isn't enough of a strong enough to really feel like UKIP's a vibrant, exciting place to be. What's everyone gonna do, or should we not speculate? But I think definitely a lot of people are going to leave, and I wouldn't stay around personally if it was a weak compromise. I think unless it's really vibrant, then I would just be really disappointed, and I would look for something else to do, or I just go back to living a quiet life, and instead of racing up and down the country, going to these conferences and stuff. It's been fun, but I've got my bees and my horses and stuff, and quite a nice life here, really. But it would be a terrible shame. But so what does everyone else think? Because I just think unless it's going to be an exciting place, I think I'd probably call it a day. Sadly, very, very unwilling. You don't have to answer, but obviously a lot of people will leave, and then what happens to UKIP then? What's it going to look like? What kind of place is it going to be, really?
I'm banking on the right result and good people getting on the NEC and then backing the leader. And I want Richard to win. I voted for Richard. I want him to do well. So that's what I'm pushing for. If that doesn't go well, then I don't know. I'd probably sit on the sidelines and see what happens, because I've never joined another political party, and I love politics, and UKIP is my home. So I would sit. I mean, when Henry Bolton got in, I sat on the sidelines, and I was chair of my branch, but I kind of watched and waited to see what happens and try to influence things positively. So I'll probably continue to do the same. But I mean, I think we trust the members. We trust the members. The members made the right decision on Richard, and the members will make the right decision on the NEC, and we can get back to what we should be doing.
It's not the members we don't trust. I think we made that clear.
Yes, but my line is this is a vote of the members, and we trust the members, and I hope the NEC have got a little bit of integrity. I hope so.
That's what it's all about, restoring integrity.
Yeah.
Dan, that question was aimed at everyone, wasn't it?
Go on then.
I suppose my answer is the same it was in the leadership election, which is that so long as UKIP continues to be a party full of members that whom when I speak to, I agree with them mostly, I will stay in UKIP. I mean, the NEC, the leadership, whoever, if the leader had been Mike Hookham, I would have stuck around. Because I'm not here for Mike Hookham, I'm here for the party, and the party for me is the members, which I'm sure you guys will now tell me is why integrity exists, but obviously I think I would wait for that.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I'm sticking around. That's my question. That's my answer. I'm going to stick around. I don't care what the NEC results are.
Yeah, I kind of do care, to be honest. I think we need strong leadership here, and to. I was debating with myself whether to bring this up, but I kind of feel that for UKIP to really thrive, we kind of need either two things to happen. Tommy Robinson to join the party, or Jared Batten to return as leader. Now, ideally, I would like both to happen. For me, that would just be like the heavens of glory. I don't know how to describe it. It would be amazing.
Yeah.
But if we could just get one of those things to happen, I think we could really generate a buzz with the members and people around UKIP, because it's something to get excited about.
Exactly.
These two characters are massive in their personalities, and I think the amount of benefit they could bring to us would be amazing. And Gerard will always be in the background. I would prefer to have him at the front and center personally, because I think for the members to really appreciate what's going on and him leading the charge, we need to have him at the front, really. But I can accept him as deputy leader. But in that case, we need to have Tommy Robinson as well. That's the way I feel. I know I'm not, among loads of people when I say that, but I do feel like we need to have something to excite us.
It's exciting to get to grapple with, I mean, a hot potato, and then have to deal with it, and then find ways to deal with it. It's like you need big issues to solve, and a challenge. I mean, surely we like a challenge. Surely that's the whole point of taking something difficult and making it work. And the Tommy Robinson issue is difficult, and as the things that he represents is difficult, and that's the whole point of UKIP. I would have thought is to deal with thorny issues, and then represent people that have previously been not as well represented, and bringing them into the political fold, changing the landscape, getting new voters, just creating something new, not just repeating the same sort of bland centrist politics that's boring everybody to death anyway. There's just nothing exciting about that, and you might as well join a bigger party, because at least you're backing a winning horse, and
Well, exactly, and that's kind of how I feel, to be honest. If UKIP's going to go in this bland direction, I might as well just join the Conservatives and try and work my way with them, because at least they got more votes. If UKIP are just going to be like the Conservatives, I might as well join the Conservative Party.
Small and bland or big and bland, you're going to go big and bland. Yeah.
What you want to go to a UKIP conference where you have Tommy Robinson speaking, Katie Hopkins, Gerard Batten, Milo, Sargon, PJW. That's what you want. You don't want to go to watch, bloody someone like Rory Stewart. Who would want to see that shit?
Rory.
All right. Well, I've probably got a two-part question for all of you. Probably starting with Peter, I guess, because he's a main man here. So the first part would be: would you say you agree mostly with the policies, most of UKIP's policies, if not all of them, the current official policies?
Yeah, but I don't know what our official policies are. But I mean, I've read through all the manifestos, and most of
that's
it.
what I mean.
Yeah, I would love us to get back into looking at policies and reformulating and seeing how we can change them, and because policy is always evolving, and we haven't touched it for probably a good 6-9 months. We've left it there. When Jared got in, he put together something, but no, I mean that's why I'm part of UKIP, because I've read through it and I've said this is for me. This is where I am. And actually, it was similar talking to Carl. Carl said the same thing, that he was looking through UKIP stuff and thought, I like this. And then the more he read, the more he liked. And that's what I want people to do. When they come across some of UKIP, they look into it and they think, actually, I never considered UKIP before, but these guys are right on these issues. And I think our policies have to be radical. And Nigel was absolutely right that if UKIP are not a radical party, they fail. And my worry is a lot of the NEC members want us to be Tory light. And to me, what's the point in just aping another party? We have to have a different view. We have a different message to sell, and one that the voters are thinking of that no one is addressing, and we can step in there and address those.
But I just make a suggestion. I was talking to someone about this today, and it was more, is UKIP sort of under the sort of Batten type model more moving as more of a sort of cultural movement than a political party, and maybe there's a way of stealing votes. I mean, people probably didn't vote for Tommy because he's necessarily a great politician. It's because of the things that he represented. And even Carl said, I'd be a terrible politician. He was saying that to everybody. He said, and there's the old Gavin McInnes thing. I don't want a president. I want to stick a dynamite. I don't really want someone to go into office to be a good politician, because essentially the job of the politician is arguably fairly parasitical. Isn't UKIP, with all of these cultural figures, they're not really politicians. They're more cultural figures, and they might influence things. But could UKIP, under a new direction, become more of a cultural force as much as it is a political party, because that's what it looks like. I mean, Katie Hopkins is not a politician, is someone who's diplomatic, and none of these people are particularly diplomatic, and that's their charm. Arguably, Trump isn't either. But that was just my question anyway. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your questions, Ken, but could UKIP be an exciting cultural force as well as a political party? And don't forget the old Andrew Breitbart, politics is downstream from culture. So politics is influenced by culture far more than the other way around.
I mean, we have to have massive engagement on culture, and what's happening in our culture is horrendous, and people are on the sidelines watching what's happening and feeling powerless. And whenever anyone speaks out, they're shut down. So absolutely, I think we should be engaging on that, and that's why it's great to have these guys. So I think if politics is not addressing what's happening in culture, then it's irrelevant.
It's more that culture informs politics. People vote according to the culture influences how they vote far more than the other way around. But that's the idea, and that you can influence. You can be the tail wagging the dog, and you can have a strong influence, like UKIP probably did under Nigel to some extent. It was probably more of a cultural phenomenon as much as anything. I mean, if you consider that loads of Labour voters voted UKIP, they didn't go slightly unleft. They went all the way over to what is considered a right-wing party, but they did it not because they analysed all the different political manifestos of each party, that they voted because issues like immigration, or because they didn't like the way that their culture is being treated. People they have a feeling that Britain is being lost, and that their sense of identity, their sense of Britishness is being eroded, the sense of the family, the sense of community. These are all cultural issues that people experience, and I think if UKIP focused on those issues, I think the family thing is massively underestimated, and maybe there's ways that people could have a more of an activist role to sort of, see what's happened to the destruction of the family, and it's led to all these vulnerable girls and all the rest of it.
I mean, that was one with integrity, was addressing and focusing on the cultural issues. Where if you look at the Indigo Group, which was set up by Bill Etheridge and Ben Walker, that the Indigo Group was a libertarian economic grouping. So there was a focus on that. So integrity is quite different. Also, Indigo Group didn't get banned by anyone, but that's a separate issue. But integrity is looking at the social issues, so it's a different angle. So you're right, it comes out from a different way. Kentley, what was your other question, Kentley?
Sorry,
yeah. I suppose to follow up from that, it was really just a suggestion / idea, because I know I keep trying to sort of see where you guys are willing to kind of go. Really ask, if you'd be willing to drop it under these conditions and so on. So I guess one more thing I wondered. And this is probably what I would personally work for, and whether you guys would or not. So as a developer, I've been working with Richard Brain to build some of these apps he talks about. And one of the apps, obviously, is his forum that he keeps talking about, which I think is a fantastic idea. I'm not going to do the same thing he does, where he's parrot on about it. But obviously, the original manifesto, the one we all agree with, the one we like, that was decided by the members. And from what I know, and I had ideas for it leading up to the election before Brain announced it, but his sounds a little cooler. This idea of having a policy voting platform, which he calls it a forum, but essentially is a platform where you can put forward ideas or suggestions for changes in the party, which I would say, such as having a vote for Tommy, which then the members are able to vote for. Now, I'm not sure how it's going to be moderated, whether the NEC or the leader, who's going to be in charge of that. If it's up to me, I will have an say in it, hopefully. I will want it to be as fair and open as accessible as possible. And if then the word about leaks, we could sort that out. But with this forum existing, where we could put forward ideas like the ones that Integrity has, would it not be worth waiting? Or would Integrity sort of use a platform like that once if Brain were to bring it forward? Would Integrity use a platform like that to put forward these ideas?
Absolutely, no, absolutely. Again, I repeat, it was set up as a way of trying to keep pro-Jared people in the party, but these are ideas. Now, others may have lots more to add to it, and that's fine. They can add lots more. So, 1 minute.
As we've just found out, Peter is
family people in UKIP. Yeah, exactly.
And families are the way to save Western civilization.
My 4-year-old had a point on integrity, but I put him away. So, But no, I mean, there may be lots of other ideas. Again, it's the way of sharpening your policy and ideas, of having members input into it and tweak it and change it so it's actually a better policy. So absolutely, all these go to the members and with a lot of others and have a whole debate and discussion. I think we should have policy not just online, but actually have actual people come together. So groups around the country, you could have days where people come together and discuss a lot of these things and engage. Let's have as much engagement with members as possible. But I mean, what Richard's doing with the online forum thing is brilliant, and we haven't had that before. So the more members to have their say, the better.
Yeah, more democracy never hurts.
Only hurts the NEC.
Okay, shall we look at wrapping this stream up, guys? But before we do that, do we have any questions in the comments? In fact, you know what? If you're watching the stream now, comment now, and we'll answer any questions. So how about that? We'll go on for like 5 minutes and see if we get any interesting questions come in.
Until then, I did see a question. I don't think it was even on anything related to Kipper stream, but I thought it does relate. I'm trying to find it now because I saw it. I can remember off the top of my head. It was actually from Ben in YI. He was asking a question about Tommy, which I think Peter, you've actually kind of answered. You said you're going to get this answer later on. So Ben asked, find it now. Actually, can't find it. Essentially, he just asked, "Is Tommy even interested in joining the party without Batten at the helm?"
It's a good question, and I want to catch up with him and ask him because he's been in prison. He's just come out. So, what are his plans? He's still quite engaged and interested in the political side, but he has the whole journalistic side that he wants to focus on. But I think Richard has met Tommy. I think possibly, but Tommy had the relationship with Gerard, so I don't know. I guess he doesn't want to work with UKIP if Richard doesn't want him. I guess that answers that question.
Sorry, say that again. I wasn't listening carefully enough. If Gerard doesn't want to,
I'm not listening.
I was looking at the comments.
If there are two sides. It's whether Tommy wants UKIP, but it's whether UKIP want Tommy. So it goes both ways. And if Richard is adamant that actually Tommy has no place in the party, then either that's their official position, or we go to the members deciding one way or the other. But then you have to find out whether Tommy wants and whether Tommy looks at UKIP and thinks, is there any point? Maybe I should just do my thing. And maybe Tommy comes to conference and he actually speaks as Tommy Robinson on an issue that he's focused on, not as Tommy Robinson as a UKIP member. Like Kitty Hopkins came and spoke as someone who thinks Tommy's great on her issues, but not as a member of UKIP.
I think if the UKIP members voted that Tommy should be able to join the party, Tommy would jump at that. That's my personal opinion.
That's my feeling as well.
Yeah.
We can be helpful. I do have a quick question. I've been kind of trying to ask tough questions. This one's not a tough question, I don't think. And then we've got one question in the comments. So I was just going to ask, is Jared Batten or Richard Brains secretly behind integrity?
No. Jared is against any groupings and has not been involved in any way at all. Is bashful the right way? That you see the support that there is for him, and he wasn't expecting that. Richard hasn't been involved in integrity. He's been fighting his own battles, and
he's got plenty of them.
No, yes. So, but integrity is there to back Richard. I mean, most people who have spoken to integrity voted for Richard because they believe in his vision, but probably even more than that, they agree with Gerard, and it was Bray and Batten, and they voted for that. So, but neither of them have been secretly involved, outwardly involved, publicly, privately, anyway. No.
Richard should remember that he did get voted in because he was effectively standing in for Batten, and he admitted that, and he said he wasn't planning to stand. So he can't get too high and mighty. I hope I'm not overstepping the line by sort of coming down too hard against Tommy Robinson or something, because people voted for him because he was a well, I hate to say it, Richard, a proxy for Batten. That's not really true. He's brilliant social media and all the rest of it. But, you know, that is why people voted for him. And people who support Batten are not going to be anti-Tommy Robinson joining in the party. So it's a bit hard to, you know, I think he's probably more coming down against that issue because he has to try and keep both sides of the party happy. I don't know whether he really personally believes that it's a terrible idea. Also, just one other point on that. For Britain are sort of our rivals now, sadly, at least at some level. And obviously, Tommy Robinson might need a party to join. So people should also be aware that, you know, For Britain will be, you know, he will be offered to join them as well, no doubt. And that will be another win for them that they've already managed to split away a certain portion of UKIP. And also, I'd just like to say that several people, NEC type members and people who pals with them on their side of the argument, when I've mentioned that there's a lot of UKIP entire groups going over to For Britain, and not necessarily, and sometimes because certain regional members have actually been effectively sabotaging entire UKIP groups, so they can't say that we're doing that. Is that I've had the same reply several times, and I said, well, look, there's these other groups going over to For Britain, and they say, well, go and join For Britain then, as if I want to join For Britain, which I have no particular desire to. Something about it just doesn't gel with me, and that's been their attitude, is sort of go and eat cake. Oh well, go and join For Britain, not poo shit, whatever. There's you know, loads of people are joining this other party. This is really bad. We need to do something about it. Let's wake up. Hey guys, let's call them up and let's see what is it that you're lacking. You know, because that's what I did. I got on the phone straight away to some of these people. I was like shocked that they're all leaving in their droves. No, they didn't even seem to. That was the attitude that I got from some of these NPC, NPC, sorry, people. You know, that they just really, it's like, oh well, you let them eat cake, let them go, and that's shocking. And yet, for the Tommy Robinson, he is going to be tough. He is going to, and that would be another win for them. So people need to think a little bit carefully about, you know, oh, we don't want to touch Tommy because he's a bit of a problematic issue. Well, if you don't, then someone else is going to, and then you're going to lose support, and then that your competitors are going to gain from that. So, you know.
I mean, this guy had 1 million likes on Facebook. This wasn't some obscure figure. And people go on about the election result when he was the EU candidate. But the fact is, he had no social media other than Telegram, and he still achieved the highest vote for an independent, I think. It's ridiculous. And I think the Tommy UKIP thing, it just needs to happen. It just makes too much sense.
We're never going to be able to shut up talking about it if we don't. If he joins them, we can just sort of put it in the corner and let him get on with his thing and forget about it. It's the fact that we just don't. It never happens, and the issue just keeps. It's getting really boring, isn't it? I'm sick of talking about it. In fact, you know, a regional leader I speak to regularly, she said that she had to ban people from talking about it. She wants him to join. She's pro Tommy, and it was all the people that are against him that just didn't stop talking about it, and she had to ban at these various different meetings. It was you know, and it's partly them who keep talking about it. It's like, well, if you just decide one way or the other, then you can stop talking about it. But it's not going to go away. It's just it keeps rearing its head up. And half the conference was spent talking about Tommy. He's not even, you know, he's only a certain small percentage of all of the issues that we're all talking about in UKIP. Yet his name just kept coming up all the time, and it's almost a bit embarrassing, isn't it? Because it sounds like we're all a bit obsessed with it, when actually it's just one of many people that we have admiration for. It's not, but it's sort of becoming an obsession. And for me, if an issue's like that, then it's better to deal with it than to keep sort of suppressing it and avoiding it.
And if the members did vote that Tommy should not be allowed into the party, we would genuinely shut up about it and go on, look after our bees and our horses. But the fact is, they're not doing that.
The main time I heard Tommy mentioned at the conference, besides random points made by speakers and such, was when Dan and I were debating him outside the conference center. So I don't really think Tommy was actually mentioned as much as some people have said. Not say he wasn't mentioned at all. He's always on everyone's minds, especially with integrity rising up. But yeah, so I mean, I would say I think it's on everyone's minds, especially not the NEC, because let's face it, by the time all the huge Batten supporters had boycotted the event, the only people left were largely NEC supporters who probably wouldn't mention it as much as you think. I do think I should mention some of these questions because.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say NPC before, by the way. I meant to say NEC.
Yeah, MPC 1000 asked, did you mention me, Dan? But yeah, Jim Bob Daz, weird name,
Great name.
asks, what are your views on the Supreme Court ruling? I think that's what you
talk
Peter.
about politics, are we? That's so boring. Come on.
Yeah.
We've only got two.
Yeah, no, it's crazy that they can make the ruling that Parliament is always prorogued, and yet up to Queen's speech, and it was only prorogued for an extra couple of days, 4 days or whatever. But the BBC keep reporting Parliament was prorogued for 5 weeks. It wasn't, because you've got conference season, you've got a break anyway, you've got conference season, so that's how it always happens. They didn't mention John Major prorogued Parliament because he was going to lose a vote, and yet he's joining the legal team to attack Boris. So I think it's concerning whenever you've got a clash between the parliamentary system and the judiciary. But to say that you weren't allowed to prorogue Parliament for a few days, and that had to go to the Supreme Court for a decision. And today they were back and no one knew what they were doing, literally. So everyone was pulled back. The taxpayer pays for Boris to get an emergency flight back. They pay for that plane. Everyone comes back, but they're coming back to nothing because nothing's on the agenda. So I looked for Lord Pearson today and I said, there's no debate in the Lords because no one was expecting to come back. So it's just so they can say we're here, but they don't know why they're here because there's nothing to debate. There's nothing on the agenda. So it's utterly stupid.
Okay, I've got another one here. What do you think about Greta Thunberg or whatever she's called and what's going on at the moment? Did you see her speech at the UN?
I missed it. No, I missed it.
She literally looks like the woman who twists her head in The Exorcist. She was demonic.
I think it's good to discuss environmental issues, yes, but then when it becomes an ideology or religious belief that everything is about that, it goes too far. But I think the environment should be a discussion point with everything else. But to say this new 15-year-old is the new world savior, and I saw a picture of her in a lift and the Donald in front of her, and it was just this look of evil from her staring at Trump. I think, get a life, love. So yeah, I mean, if she can sail around the world all her life and doesn't have to go to school or doesn't have to earn money, then wonderful, good on her. So yeah.
She looks like she's about 12, so I just can't say anything nasty about her. I know she's actually 16. I don't know if they deliberately make her look like she's this sort of poor, sort of bedraggled waif whose, environment's been destroyed by the evil capitalists. But I just don't like the way that people say nasty things, even though she's, 16.
Well,
old enough to take a few hits, I suppose. But
when I criticize her, it's because that I believe that she's been set up by her parents to be like that. She's been brainwashed from the start, clearly. I can't remember the exact information, but I think her parents are well connected in those sort of areas to do with climate change. And she's clearly, it seems to me, a corporate puppet of some sort. Who knows? Probably funded by Soros.
Her mother is a climate change activist, and her father and grandfather are both actors.
There you go. And probably funded by Soros, but we can't confirm that.
Actors and activists kind of goes well to, sort of seamlessly sort of slips into it.
Well,
I mean, given her speech at the UN, I think acting does come into that.
Yeah.
Politics is just acting for ugly people, isn't it? At the end of the day.
So Peter, another question. This is from Hellbound, who asks, do you guys have any written content, i.e. journalism you do on the side, blog, anything public? I don't know if that's addressed actually to Kipper stream or not, but I suppose you can both answer.
I mean, because we've just started, so we've been traveling all around the country speaking. We've done different articles for Kipper Central, but no, we haven't. We've been coping with the response from people all over. So we will. We only have a landing page on the website, and that's my fault. I'll need to get that fixed by the end of the week, so we have more stuff. And then whenever we do articles, we can put that up and have different videos going up. So we will get there, but it's still early days. So we wanted to start something. We started something without having everything lined up, I guess, behind it. So that will follow. Not yet.
There's a few integrity Facebook pages, and we can send you one of those little profile thingies that you put over your head, so you've got like a integrity halo on you. But, it's only for the brave, because some people don't want to be risk getting kicked out of UKIP. So
did you see Jeff Wyatt with his lovely? Can you see my integrity badge?
Yeah, I did actually. I forgot to wear my badge. It's upstairs, and now I saw him on Sky News. Yeah,
he was great on Sky News. And he said he mentioned integrity in UKIP, but they didn't actually. They cut that bit out. It was a good piece, and he had a good slot on it.
Well, the main thing with integrity is to subscribe to the email newsletter. Obviously, that's where you get most of the juicy info from.
Come talk to us on Facebook.
Yep, I just fired off an email at 6 o'clock, so we're trying to do 2 a week, information going out. So yeah.
The old team of UKIP behind Batten was really a great team, in my opinion. We had you as campaign manager, we had Chris Hicks as head of comms, and then we had Alan Craig as family spokesman. I think we were really lucky to have such great people. I don't know if you know, but Chris Hicks also has his own YouTube channel called Hicks Politics, which is actually really good.
Yeah.
I don't feel quite as inspired by the current team, I should say. It'd be great if this NEC election goes the way we all want it to go, that we can start getting this team back together, the dream team.
Yes.
Well, a team full stop, because I think Richard's been fighting and running around and he hasn't been able to put a team together. So if he play ball and work with him, then he can get his team together. And he doesn't have a PA. Get a PA, get head of comms, get head of campaigns, get all these people together and begin to build up, see what he wants to do. So, yeah, the NEC have to let him get on with that.
I suppose I'd add to that although as much as I love Batten, and I personally like the way he speaks on air and like in public, I know quite a few people who don't, and so I would say that I think that Richard, whatever you say, Damien, about how you're not very inspired, I think that Richard has done a much better job of handling and walking circles around the media compared to how Batten did. I think
got a point. You got a point there.
I think Batten did really well with making his points. I think, but he didn't come across as well as Brain does.
Do you think Batten's better for the members and sort of Brain's quite a good public face? I mean,
probably, yeah.
Got that sort of gravitas that you just can't knock. And I can see him when I watch videos of him, because it was a bit before my time, coming across in like in going to visit UKIP groups. You get real sense that he's like a man of the people. But I've seen him get quite grumpy. I mean, even James Dellingpole in the Delling podcast, he does actually bravely say to him, "You really are quite grumpy, aren't you?" And sort of Batten laughs, and it's a sort of awkward moment. I was wondering if he was going to say that, and it's true. I find him he's quite terse with the media and just a bit intolerant, and I don't blame him for that. But
I think
Brain's a very smooth operator. I personally think that
I think people like
team as well. To be honest, yeah.
I think people like that, though, Dan. I think people like the more cutthroat approach, and I think that's borne out in the numbers as well of members that Batten was pulling in. So I would slightly disagree with that. As much as I like Richard Brain's,
can Brain be deputy then?
It's his amazing ability to debate and things like that. I do think we need someone who is there to basically do a clever way of saying, no, fuck you.
Well, I mean, a part of me keeps going, okay, well, actually, I guess if Brain insists... Oh, sorry, Dan, you were saying?
Sorry, no, I just said we don't want to be too slick as well. And, Brain is he's very smooth, but we don't,
Well, he's not as bad as Ben Walker.
No, he's very smooth. He admitted in conference that he had one of those synthetic lawns, so that was it.
Well, yeah, I was just saying, there's a little part of me that keeps going, okay, well, if Richard insists, or if he says that we should just not worry about Batten not being made deputy, move on, or whatever, a part of me just goes, okay, I can live with that. But whenever I think of Richard Brain and Jared Batten working together as a team, I can just see absolute success there every time I think of it, because like I say, Brain has shown himself at handling the media, and he's got some great ideas for advancing the party in a sort of updated, efficient direction. But at the same time, Batten is just really great at resonating with what the members want. That's one of the reasons I love him. It's just a lot of his policies and a lot of the stuff that he says is important do resonate with the members.
They complement them. They complement each other in so many ways. You know,
Yeah.
Batten's the East London lad of the working class, the champion of the working class, and then you've got Richard, who's the Eton boy, but the very intelligent and intellectual. You know, gives things in a very
He's very smooth,
articulate way. So yeah, I would love to see Batten and Brain in the same, you know, leader deputy, whichever way it went. It would be a good partnership for sure.
I think Batten would have to. He would really have to want to do it, though. He doesn't. He doesn't sort of come across like he would have to sort of go away on a spiritual retreat in the Himalayas or somewhere, and like, you know, find his sort of like Zen spirit or something, and then come back sort of revitalized and do a sort of major. I mean, Trump was what, 70 when he got elected. I mean, you know, it's not a. But he would really. I think he would have to look like he really wants to be there, rather than like he's just there to sort of put up with the snarky questions from the BBC, and then he'd really, you know, it's chucking his microphone down and, you know, like did his little walkouts and stuff. But yeah, if he really wanted to be, I think he'd have to show that to himself that he really wanted to be, not that he's just doing it because, you know, UKIP can't get his act together and, you know, Dad has to come back and sort this shit out again, you know. But, in principle, if you know, he's got the gravitas, he's got the experience, he's got the history. There's just something about him that you know, it's just come with time and experience, and, you know, all his knowledge, and he's obviously, yeah, under the right circumstances, definitely. Otherwise, if he can just always be on the scene for advice, be it as an advisor, or, you know, kind of a spokesperson, go and give inspirational speeches at conferences and groups, and keep in the background, and, you know.
Oh well, he said he's going to do that already. That he'll always lead. Well, he'll lead from the back if he can't lead from the front. So we'll always have Batten to an extent, but obviously I would like to have him more at the forefront.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a very selfish question, which has almost nothing to do with anything, Peter?
And then we're coming into land, but yes.
Okay. I was thinking if this would get you into trouble, but you're already in trouble, so it doesn't matter. What do you think of Ian Paisley, the original?
Oh, he's going on about bloody Ian Paisley again.
It was great. I only met him once, and that was outside. I remember going to church one time to see him preach, and he wasn't there, and I was really annoyed. And then I went along to Parliament, and there was a big debate on the, I can't remember what it was about. It was probably the same-sex marriage debate they were having, and they came along and shook everyone's hands and talked to everyone who was outside Parliament that day. And great guy. I mean, a firebrand. It's people like that that provide some energy. I mean, that's why I like Boris, because Boris does actually provide some energy into politics and takes away the dullness which we had with Theresa May. But Ian Paisley's great, and his sadly his sons don't have the same fire as he did have. But he was great politician, great. Yeah.
That's the same with Tony Benn's son. He's a complete disappointment. Hilary Benn, not even close to the apple tree. And Winston Churchill's son's pretty crap as well. So yeah, I guess you can't rely on genes for being a good politician.
These people are one-off. They really are, not repeated. So
yeah, I mean,
Nigel got any children?
Sorry, go on.
Did Nigel got any children?
I don't know, but probably just hasn't let anyone know about them.
I don't think he's going to follow him into politics.
I've noticed if you go on Boris Johnson's Wikipedia page, under children, it says 5 or 6. They're not quite sure.
It should have a space and say, put in your number, any number you like.
Yeah. Okay, on that note, maybe we should wrap up the stream.
You just had to get Ian Paisley in there somewhere, didn't you?
Oh, I had to get Ian Paisley in there. In fact, have you seen Master Brew's video of Ian Paisley, Peter?
No.
I'll have to send it to you. It inspires me on a daily basis.
Send it and I will watch it.
Okay, brilliant. All right, well, good episode. And
yeah, nice talking, guys.
Good to be on. Thank you.
Service guarantees citizenship.
It was good talking to you, Peter. I do hope that maybe Integrity choose to wait a bit until we've dealt with the infestation, and then maybe at a later date we can deal with this issue. I would probably, be inclined to sort of change sides, but right now, I want to deal with
No,
the NEC.
of course. Let's wait end of October and let's see what happens. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, it was good talking to you.
Do you want to tell us when we're not live? In fact, I shouldn't have said that because it ruins the vibe. But whatever. Close the screen down. Peter, stay on the line.
Farewell all.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.